Captain Katie Brooks sat on the edge of her bunk at exactly 5 in the morning, just like she did every day. She pulled on her running shoes and laced them tight. The ship was quiet except for the soft hum of the engines. Most of the crew was still sleeping, but Katie never missed her morning run. She walked through the corridors of the exploration vessel New Horizon, her footsteps making soft sounds on the metal floor. The ship had been her home for 6 months now, and she knew every corner of it. But today was different. Today they had reached the edge of something that made even the bravest space travelers nervous. The Cathara Wasteland stretched out beyond, the ship's hull like a shimmering wall of heat and danger. Katie looked out through the observation window at the hostile landscape below. The ground was cracked and broken, with strange crystal formations that glowed with deadly radiation. Toxic storms moved across the surface like angry ghosts, and somewhere in that mess lived creatures that most species only talked about in whispers. "Good morning, Captain," said Lieutenant Commander Alex Turner as he entered the observation deck with his morning coffee. "You are up early, even for you." Katie smiled and finished stretching her left calf muscle. "Same time as always, Alex. I never miss my morning run." Alex looked confused and glanced out at the wasteland. "Your morning run?" "Katie, we are in orbit above one of the most dangerous places in the galaxy. The Cathara Wasteland has killed more explorers than any other location in known space." "I know," Katie said, checking her watch. "Looks like perfect running weather." Alex nearly dropped his coffee. "You cannot be serious." "Dead serious," Katie replied, pulling on her light jacket. "I measured the distance yesterday. It is about 847 kilometers across. That should give me a good workout before breakfast." The elevator. Doors opened, and Commander Zethkai of the Veltari stepped out. His tall, thin frame moved with the careful grace of his species, and his large, dark eyes held the wisdom of someone who had seen many worlds. He was the ship's alien liaison, here to help with first contact situations in dangerous territories, like this one. "Captain Brooks," Zethkai said, his voice carrying the musical quality of his people's language. "I trust you slept well. We will be beginning our detailed scans of the wasteland this morning. My people's records show that the safest path across this terrain requires careful planning and several years of preparation." Katie nodded politely. "That sounds very thorough, Commander. While you are doing that, I will be taking my morning jog across to the other side." Zethkai's large eyes grew even larger. "I beg your pardon, Captain?" "My morning run," Katie repeated, speaking slowly in case there was a translation error. "I run every morning. Today I thought I would run across the wasteland. Should not take more than a few hours." The Veltari commander made a sound that the translation device could not process. "Captain, you do not understand. The Cathara Wasteland is not a place for casual travel. The radiation levels would kill most species within minutes. The crystal formations create maze-like passages that can trap travelers for days. The toxic storms can dissolve exposed skin. The creatures that live there hunt anything that moves." Katie checked her watch again. "Sounds challenging." "I like a good challenge." Alex put his hand on her shoulder. "Katie, he is right. This place is not a jogging trail, it is a death trap." "Alex, remember when we went hiking on Kepler 442b and you said those mountains were too dangerous to climb? I climbed them and was back before lunch. That was different. Those were just mountains with thin air and steep cliffs. This is the Cathara Wasteland. It has a reputation." Dr. Lisa Grant, the ship's xenobiologist, hurried onto the observation deck with a data pad in her hands. "Captain, I have been reviewing the environmental data all night. The surface temperature varies between 60 and 180 degrees Celsius. The atmosphere contains 17 different types of toxic gases. The ground is unstable due to underground mineral deposits that shift constantly." Katie listened patiently and then smiled. "Thanks for the briefing, Doc. I will make sure to bring extra water." "Extra water?" Dr. Grant stared at her. "Captain, this is not a matter of hydration. This environment would challenge a fully equipped expedition with military-grade environmental suits and months of supplies." "I appreciate your concern," Katie said, heading toward the shuttle bay. "But I really need to get going. I want to be back before the coffee gets cold." Commander Zethkai followed her, still speaking rapidly in his musical language. The translation device struggled to keep up. Captain, my people have studied this wasteland for generations. Our best scouts trained from childhood in survival. Techniques require 3 standard years to cross safely. They map every radiation pocket, chart every storm pattern, identify every safe shelter. Even then, many never return. Katie stopped walking and turned to face the alien commander. 3 years? For 847 kilometers? That is really slow. Do your people not know how to run? The question seemed to confuse Zethkai even more. Run? Captain, this is not about speed. This is about survival. Running is survival, Katie said simply. Humans have been running to survive for hundreds of thousands of years. It is what we do. In the shuttle bay, Chief Petty Officer Ryan Murphy was doing his morning equipment checks. Morning, Captain. You heading down to the planet for the survey mission? Something like that, Katie replied, picking up a small backpack with water bottles and energy bars. I will be back in a few hours. Ryan looked at her light equipment and then at the weapons locker she had completely ignored. Captain, should you not take more gear? Maybe a weapon, some kind of protection? Katie patted him on the shoulder. Ryan, I am just going for a run. I do not need weapons to run. Petty Officer Jake Collins looked up from the communication station. Captain, I will keep an open channel. If you need anything, just call. Thanks, Jake. If anyone asks where I am, tell them I will be back before breakfast. Katie climbed into the small shuttle and started the engines. Through the shuttle bay's force field, she could see the wasteland waiting below. The morning light made the crystal formations sparkle like deadly jewels. Somewhere in that dangerous landscape, creatures moved through toxic storms that could kill most beings in seconds. Katie smiled and adjusted her running shoes one more time. It looked like it was going to be a beautiful day for a run. On the bridge of the New Horizon, Commander Zethkai paced back and forth like a caged animal. His long, thin fingers moved constantly, a sign of deep worry among his people. The human captain had been gone for 37 minutes, and her life signs were still strong on the ship's sensors. This makes no sense, Zethkai muttered to himself. No sense at all. Lieutenant Commander Alex Turner sat in the captain's chair, watching the sensor readings with growing amazement. Katie's heart rate was steady, her breathing was normal. According to every measurement they had, she was having a pleasant morning walk instead of fighting for her life in one of the galaxy's most dangerous places. Dr. Lisa Grant looked up from her science station with confusion written all over her face. Alex, her core body temperature is actually lower than it was when she left the ship. How is that possible? The surface temperature down there should be cooking her alive. Maybe our sensors are wrong, suggested Petty Officer Jake Collins from his communication post. I ran full diagnostics twice, Dr. Grant replied. The sensors are working perfectly. According to this data, Katie is not just surviving down there. She is comfortable. On the main screen, they watched a small dot moving across the computer map of the wasteland. Katie's position updated every few seconds, showing her steady progress through terrain that should have been impossible to cross. Commander Zethkai stopped pacing and stared at the screen. She is taking the old water routes. What? Alex asked. The paths she is following. My people mapped those areas thousands of years ago. They are ancient stream beds, from when this place had rivers. The mineral content in the soil makes them slightly less radioactive, but how could she know that? Dr. Grant checked her readings again. Maybe she is just lucky? No, Zethkai said, shaking his head. Look at her path. She is not wandering randomly. She is following the safest route through the wasteland, but she is doing it at a speed that should be impossible. 300 light-years away, on the insectoid homeworld of Klaxnara Prime, the Expedition Planning Council was holding their weekly meeting. They had been discussing their own attempts to cross the Kethera wasteland for the past 50 years. Chief Planner Shithar clicked her mandibles thoughtfully as she reviewed the massive holographic display showing their latest expedition design. The new mechanical walkers are ready for testing. Each unit can carry supplies for 6 months and has enough armor to withstand the crystal beast attacks. How many units will we need? Asked her assistant, a younger Klaxonari named Borseth. At least 40 walkers, plus supply ships for resupply every 2 months. We estimate the crossing will take 14 months if everything goes according to plan. And if things go wrong? Cheethar's compound eyes dimmed. If things go wrong, we will need twice as many units and twice as much time. Neither of them knew that at that very moment, a single human was jogging through the wasteland they had been planning to conquer with an army of machines. On the energy-being homeworld of Lumenthus, the Phase Shift Research Committee was having similar discussions. Their species did not have physical bodies like most others, but they still found the wasteland challenging because of the way it interfered with their energy patterns. The new phase shift technology shows promise, reported lead researcher Vashtai, their voice creating patterns of light in the meeting space. We can avoid the physical dangers by shifting our energy signatures to a different dimensional frequency. How long will it take to cross? Asked another committee member. Our calculations suggest 18 months, assuming we can maintain phase coherence throughout the journey. The wasteland's energy interference makes it difficult to stay shifted for extended periods. They had no idea that a human had just passed through what they considered one of the most challenging obstacles in the universe, and she was not even breathing hard. Back on the new horizon, Katie's voice came through the communication system, clear and cheerful. Jake, can you hear me? Loud and clear, Captain, Jake replied quickly. How are you doing down there? Great. This place is amazing. The rock formations are beautiful, and the crystal structures are like nothing I have ever seen. I am about halfway across now. Commander Zethkai grabbed the communication device. Captain Brooks, what is your current position? Are you following a map? No map, Katie's voice replied. I am just following what looks like the easiest path. There are these natural corridors between the crystal formations that seem to have less radiation. The ground is more solid there too. It is almost like someone designed running trails through here. Zethkai looked at Dr. Grant with wide eyes. She is reading the landscape. She can see the safe passages. How is that possible? Dr. Grant asked. I do not know. My people need instruments and years of study to identify those routes. She is doing it by instinct while running. On the warrior world of Korthak Prime, the Sacred Council of Champions was deep in meditation. They had been preparing war leader Grakthar for his attempt to cross the wasteland for the past 7 years. The crossing was considered the ultimate test of Korthak's strength and spirit. Your mind must be clear, Elder Mortok told the young warrior. Your body must be pure. Your spirit must be strong enough to face the demons that live in the wasteland. Grakthar knelt before the sacred weapons that would accompany him on his journey. Each weapon had been blessed by 100 priests and charged with the spiritual energy of his ancestors. His armor had been crafted from the strongest metals in the galaxy and inscribed with protective runes. How long will the crossing take, Elder? Grakthar asked. If the spirits favor you, perhaps 2 years. You must take time to perform the proper rituals at each stage of the journey. You must honor the spirits of those who came before. You must prove yourself worthy through combat with the crystal beasts. The young warrior nodded solemnly. He had trained his entire life for this moment. The crossing would either make him a legend among his people, or add his name to the long list of heroes who never returned. None of them knew that their ultimate trial was currently being treated as morning exercise by a human who had not even brought a weapon. Back in the wasteland, Katie checked her watch and smiled. She was making good time. The path ahead looked clear, and she could see the far edge of the wasteland in the distance. Behind her, her footprints marked the first casual journey ever made across the legendary death zone. She took a sip of water from her bottle and picked up her pace slightly. The crew would be getting hungry soon, and she had promised to be back before the coffee got cold. 2 hours and 37 minutes after leaving the new horizon, Katie Brooks emerged from the shimmering heat distortion at the far edge of the Cathara wasteland. She paused to catch her breath and check her watch, then waved cheerfully at the ship's sensors that she knew were watching her. Jake, are you there? She called into her communicator. Captain. Jake's voice crackled with relief and disbelief. You made it. How do you feel? Pretty good, Katie replied, stretching her hamstring muscles against a nearby rock. That was a nice warm-up. The path was easier than I expected once I got the rhythm down. On the bridge of the New Horizon, Alex Turner stared at the sensor readings in amazement. Katie's vital signs showed she had just completed what most species considered impossible, and her body was responding like she had taken a casual jog around the block. Commander Zethkai stood frozen beside the captain's chair. Warm up? He whispered. Did she say warm up? Dr. Lisa Grant looked up from her science station with wide eyes. Her heart rate never went above what we would consider moderate exercise. Her stress hormones are actually lower than when she left. According to these readings, she enjoyed herself. Katie's voice came through the speakers again, interrupting their amazement. Hey Alex, I am going to head back now. This was just the first half of my run. The bridge fell silent. Even the normal sounds of the ship's systems seemed to fade away. Say again, Captain? Jake asked weakly. I said I'm heading back. That was only the first half. I always do my runs as out and back routes. Got to get the full workout, you know? Alex found his voice first. Katie, you just crossed the Kethara Wasteland, the whole thing. You are on the other side. I know, Katie said, and they could hear the smile in her voice. Now I need to run back. That is how running works, Alex. You go out, then you come. Back. But Katie, Dr. Grant said, taking over the communicator, you have already accomplished something that no other species has ever done. You crossed the wasteland in under 3 hours. You could rest now. You have earned it. Katie laughed. Rest? Doc, I am barely warmed up. The first crossing was just to map out the route. Now I know where all the good paths are. I can really pick up the pace on the way back. Commander Zethkai made a sound that the translation device could not process. It might have been a prayer in his native language, or it might have been the sound of his worldview collapsing. Katie, Alex said carefully, please tell me you are joking. Nope. Already started back. See you in a couple hours. The communication went silent. On the main screen, they watched Katie's position marker turn around and begin moving back across the wasteland. This time, her pace was noticeably faster. Dr. Grant checked her instruments twice, then checked them again. She is moving 40%, faster than her first crossing. How is that possible? She said she knows where the good paths are now, Alex replied, still staring at the screen in disbelief. Commander Zethkai finally found his voice. In 3 years of preparation, my best scouts map one safe route across the wasteland. This human mapped multiple routes in her head while running, and now she is using that knowledge to run faster. 3 systems away, an automated monitoring station detected the unusual energy signatures coming from the Kethara wasteland. The readings showed a single life form moving across the surface at impossible speeds. The station's computer, programmed to log all unusual events, marked the readings as a sensor malfunction, and continued its watch. On Klaxnara Prime, Chief Planner Zithar was reviewing the final details of their expedition when her assistant brought her an urgent message. Ma'am, we are receiving reports of activity in the Kethara wasteland. Someone is crossing it. Zithar looked up from her plans. Impossible. We would have received advance notice of any major expedition. What species is mounting such an attempt? According to the reports, it is a single human. She has already crossed once and is now crossing back. Zithar's compound eyes focused sharply on her assistant. One human? Crossing twice? Are you certain? These reports are accurate? The readings are coming from multiple sources, ma'am. A human exploration vessel is monitoring the situation. Zithar looked at her elaborate expedition plans with their 40 mechanical walkers and 14-month timeline. Slowly, she began to understand that everything her people had believed about the wasteland might be wrong. Back in the wasteland, Katie was having the time of her life. The second crossing was completely different from the first. Now that she knew the lay of the land, she could see patterns that had not been obvious before. The crystal formations followed natural lines of mineral deposits. The safe corridors connected to form a network of paths that crisscrossed the entire wasteland. She picked up her pace, enjoying the feel of her muscles working and her heart pumping. This was what she had been missing during the long months in space. There was nothing like a good run on solid ground to make her feel alive again. Her communicator crackled. "Captain, this is Dr. Grant. How are you feeling?" "Fantastic," Katie replied without slowing down. "This place is like a natural obstacle course. I can see why other species have trouble with it, but once you understand the pattern, it is actually pretty straightforward." "The pattern?" Dr. Grant asked. "Yeah. The crystal formations follow the old mineral veins. The safe paths are where the groundwater used to flow. You can tell by the way the rocks are worn smooth. It is like following a dried-up river system." On the bridge, Commander Zethkai sat down heavily in an empty chair. "She is reading geological history while running. She can see things that take my people years to map with advanced instruments." Alex Turner shook his head in amazement. "That is our Katie. She has always been good at seeing patterns. Last year, she predicted a solar flare 3 days before our instruments detected it, just by watching the way the light moved across the star's surface." "But this is different," Zethkai protested. "This is survival knowledge that should take years to acquire." "Maybe for your people," Dr. Grant said thoughtfully. "But humans evolved as endurance hunters. We are designed to read landscapes quickly and find the most efficient paths across difficult terrain. Katie is doing what her ancestors did for millions of years." Katie's voice came through the communicator again. "Hey, can someone start the coffee? I am about 3/4 of the way back and I am working up an appetite. Maybe ask Ryan to make some of those protein pancakes he is so proud of." Alex looked around the bridge at his stunned crew. "You heard the captain. We should probably get breakfast ready. Knowing Katie, she will want to eat and then ask what we have planned for the afternoon." Commander Zethkai stood up slowly. "I need to contact my superiors immediately. This changes everything we thought we knew about the Wasteland. And about humans," Dr. Grant added quietly. On the main screen, Katie's position marker continued, its steady progress back toward their starting point. Her second crossing of the legendary Cathara Wasteland was already faster than her first, and according to her vital signs, she was still enjoying every minute of it. Katie completed her second crossing of the Cathara Wasteland in 1 hour and 53 minutes. She had found even better pathways on the return trip, optimizing her route like a computer, calculating the most efficient solution to a complex problem. When the shuttle bay doors opened, she jogged inside with barely elevated breathing and headed straight for the shower. "That felt good," she announced to Chief Petty Officer Ryan Murphy, who was staring at her like she had grown a second head. "Nothing beats a good run on solid ground after months in space." Ryan blinked several times before finding his voice. "Captain, did you just say that crossing the Cathara Wasteland felt good?" "Best run I have had in months," Katie replied, toweling off her face. "The terrain was challenging, but not too difficult once you learn to read the landscape. The crystal formations actually create natural windbreaks that help regulate the temperature." "Natural windbreaks," Ryan repeated slowly, "in the Cathara Wasteland." "Exactly. The toxic storms follow predictable patterns too. You can see them coming from kilometers away, so it is easy to find shelter until they pass." Ryan made a mental note to never complain about Earth weather again. 20 minutes later, Katie entered the mess hall wearing fresh clothes and looking completely refreshed. The room fell silent as every crew member turned to stare at her. Word had spread quickly through the ship that their captain had just accomplished the impossible, and now she was asking for breakfast like it was any other Tuesday morning. "Morning, everyone," Katie said cheerfully, grabbing a tray from the serving line. "Ryan, please tell me you made those protein pancakes. I worked up quite an appetite out there." "Of course, Captain," Ryan said, still looking shell-shocked. "Coming. Right up." At the corner table, Commander Zethkai sat with several other alien delegates who had joined the expedition as observers. The tall crystalline being called Mordeth, who served as a cultural liaison from the Galactic Council, had arrived during Katie's run and was now questioning everything he thought he knew about human capabilities. "Commander Zethkai," Mordeth said in his chiming voice, "please confirm for me what I believe I have witnessed. A single human just crossed the Cathara Wasteland twice in under 5 standard hours? Zethkai nodded miserably. That is correct. She treated it like routine, physical exercise. The third alien at the table, a stocky representative from the underground dwelling Petra Kai, shook his rocky head in disbelief. My people have been tunneling under that wasteland for centuries, trying to find a safe route to the other side. Our best engineers estimate it would take 50 years to build a tunnel system safe enough for regular travel. Katie approached their table with her breakfast tray. Mind if I sit with you, gentlemen? I always like to eat with visitors. The three aliens stared at her in stunned silence. Captain Brooks, Mordeth finally managed. I represent the Galactic Council's Survey Division. We maintain detailed records of all known hazardous regions in this sector. The Cathara Wasteland is classified as a Class A death zone, unsuitable for any form of biological exploration. Katie took a bite of her pancakes and nodded politely. It is definitely challenging terrain. I can see why some species might have trouble with it. Some species? The Petrikai delegate squeaked. Captain, no species has ever successfully crossed that wasteland. We have records going back thousands of years. The radiation alone should have killed you within minutes. Radiation? Katie looked surprised. I did notice some areas that felt a bit warm, but nothing serious. Humans are pretty good at handling radiation. We evolved on a planet with a weak magnetic field, so we had to adapt. Commander Zethkai leaned forward urgently. Captain, my people's most advanced scouts trained for decades before attempting the crossing. They use the finest equipment, the best maps, years of preparation. Even then, most never return. Katie paused with her fork halfway to her mouth. Decades of training? For a run? That seems like overkill. A run? Mordeth's crystalline form flickered with patterns that indicated extreme confusion. Captain, you keep calling it a run. This is the Cathara Wasteland we are discussing. It is one of the most dangerous places in known space. I know, Katie said patiently. But dangerous does not mean impossible. You just have to approach it correctly. Dr. Lisa Grant approached the table with her datapad. Katie, I have been analyzing your bio readings from the crossing. Your performance was actually better than your average morning run on Earth. Your efficiency improved, your heart rate was optimal, and your recovery time was faster than normal. Katie smiled. That makes sense. The varied terrain was more interesting than running on a treadmill or track. Plus, the scenery was incredible. Incredible scenery, the Petrikai delegate muttered. She found incredible scenery in a place we call the Death's Mirror. Lieutenant Commander Alex Turner sat down at the table with his own breakfast. Katie, I have been thinking about what you said regarding patterns in the landscape. Could you teach other people to see what you saw? Katie considered the question while eating. Maybe. It is mostly about understanding how water moves across terrain and recognizing mineral patterns. Any geologist should be able to pick it up with a little practice. Any geologist, Zethkai repeated. Captain, my people's finest geological experts have studied that wasteland for generations. They have never identified the routes you followed. Well, Katie said thoughtfully, they were probably studying it from orbit or with long-range sensors. You really need to be down there walking the ground to see the subtleties. Running speed is actually perfect for reading terrain. You move fast enough to see the big patterns, but not so fast that you miss the details. Mordeth's patterns shifted to colors that indicated he was having trouble processing this information. Captain, are you suggesting that the solution to crossing the wasteland is to move faster, not slower? For humans, yes. We are persistence hunters. We are designed to cover long distances efficiently while staying alert to our environment. The wasteland is just another landscape to us. Jake Collins' voice came over the ship's communication system. Captain Brooks, you have an urgent message from Earth Defense Command. Admiral Peterson wants to speak with you personally. Katie sighed and finished her orange juice. Duty calls. Thanks for breakfast, Ryan. It was delicious. As she left the mess hall, the three alien delegates sat in silence, trying to understand what they had witnessed. Gentlemen, Mordeth finally said, I believe we need to reconsider everything we thought we knew about human capabilities. Commander Zethkai nodded slowly. And everything we thought we knew about what is possible. At the next table, Dr. Grant was already making notes for her report. She had a feeling that Katie's morning run was about to change how the galaxy thought about exploration, endurance, and the strange species called humans. Katie, meanwhile, was in her quarters taking a call from Earth, trying to explain to increasingly excited military officials that she had just gone for a jog and did not understand what all the fuss was about. The news traveled fast through space. Within 3 days, every major species in the galaxy knew about Katie Brooks and her morning run. The story spread from ship to ship, station to station, planet to planet. A human had crossed the Cathara Wasteland twice before breakfast. Not once, twice. On the Korthak homeworld, the greatest warriors sat in stunned silence. Their elders had always taught them that crossing the wasteland was the ultimate test of strength and spirit. Their champions trained for years. They meditated. They purified their bodies and minds. They prepared special equipment and blessed weapons. Even then, many never returned. War leader Grakthar threw his ceremonial spear into the ground. If a human female can run across the wasteland like it is a garden path, what does this say about our trials? His second-in-command, Brocktar, picked up the spear. Perhaps we have been thinking about this wrong, war leader. Perhaps the humans know something we do not. On the trading station near the Veltari system, Commander Zethkai sat with other military leaders from across the galaxy. They had requested this emergency meeting after receiving the sensor data from the New Horizon. The evidence was clear. The readings were accurate. A single human had done the impossible. My people have mapped the wasteland for thousands of years, Zethkai said, his voice heavy with confusion. We know every radiation pocket, every crystal formation, every toxic storm pattern. Our best scouts take 3 standard years to cross safely. This human did it in 2 hours. The Klaxnari representative, whose name humans could not pronounce, clicked her mandibles nervously. Our mechanical walkers require month-long supply chains to cross safely. We build roads as we go. We establish supply depots. We plan for every possible danger. This makes no sense. Admiral Chen of the Earth Defense Force, who had joined the meeting via quantum communication, smiled slightly. Gentlemen, ladies, distinguished beings, you are overthinking this. Katie Brooks is not even our best distance runner. She is just average by human standards. The silence that followed was deafening. Meanwhile, aboard the New Horizon, Katie was finishing her lunch when Alex Turner approached with a datapad. Katie, you need to see this. She looked at the screen and frowned. What am I looking at? Congratulations. You have been nominated for the Galactic Council's Distinguished Explorer Medal. You are the first human to receive this honor. Katie nearly choked on her sandwich. For what? My morning run? The Galactic Council says you have redefined what is possible in extreme environment exploration. They want to hold a ceremony on Station Prime next week. Katie shrugged. Okay, but can we schedule it after my workout? I was planning to check out those scorching peaks of Veltar this afternoon. Jake said they might be good for hill training. Alex stared at her. Katie, those peaks have never been successfully climbed by any known species. The surface temperature reaches 200 degrees Celsius. The atmosphere is toxic. The gravity is 3 times Earth normal. Sounds challenging, Katie said, taking another bite of her sandwich. I will need to bring extra water. Dr. Lisa Grant looked up from her research station. Katie, I have been analyzing your bio readings from the Wasteland crossing. Your heart rate never exceeded what we would consider a moderate workout level. Your stress hormones were actually lower than baseline. You were enjoying yourself. Of course I was enjoying myself. It was a beautiful morning, and I had not had a good run in weeks. Space travel does not give you many opportunities for distance running. The communication system chimed. Jake Collins answered and then turned to Katie with a strange expression. Katie, I have the Korthak war leader Grakthar on the line. He wants to speak with you personally. Katie wiped her hands and took the communication device. Hello, this is Katie. The deep, gravelly voice of the Korthak warrior filled the bridge. Human Katie Brooks. I am Grakthar. war leader of the 7th Korthak Battle Fleet. My people have considered the Cathara Wasteland to be the ultimate test of warrior spirit for over 10,000 years. Our greatest champions spent years preparing to attempt the crossing. Many never return. You ran across it twice before eating your morning meal. Katie looked confused. Yes, sir. Is there a problem? I wish to learn from you. My warriors wish to learn from you. Can humans teach us these abilities? Katie thought for a moment. Well, running is pretty basic. Anyone can learn to run better with practice. You just need to start slowly and build up your endurance over time. The key is consistency and patience. Consistency and patience, Grakthar repeated the words like they were a sacred prayer. Over the following weeks, requests poured in from across the galaxy. The Viltari wanted human consultants to redesign their exploration protocols. The Klaxonari asked for meetings with human engineers to discuss mobility solutions. The energy beings known as the Loom-Nth requested detailed studies of human physiology. Earth's government was overwhelmed by the sudden interest. Species that had barely acknowledged humanity's existence now wanted trade agreements, cultural exchanges, and training programs. Katie found herself at the center of it all, though she never quite understood why. To her, running was just running. Humans had been doing it for hundreds of thousands of years. It was nothing special. The medal ceremony on Station Prime had to be delayed by an hour because Katie was out jogging around the station's outer ring. When she finally arrived, still in her running clothes and slightly sweating, the assembled dignitaries from dozens of species rose to their feet in respect. The Galactic Council's Secretary General, a tall crystalline being named Mordeth, presented the medal. Captain Katie Brooks, you have shown us that our understanding of limits was incomplete. You have redefined what we thought was possible. You have opened new paths for exploration and discovery across the galaxy. Katie accepted the medal politely. Thank you, sir, but I just went for a run. Humans do that every day. That, said Mordeth, is exactly why you deserve this medal. After the ceremony, Katie found Alex looking at star charts in the station's navigation center. Looking for our next destination? She asked. Actually, I was looking for places you might want to go running. I figured we should start planning. Ahead. Katie grinned and pointed to a system marked with hazard warnings. What about there? Those radiation storms look like they might be fun to run through. Alex sighed and made a note in his datapad. Being Katie Brooks' first officer was never going to be boring.